It would be a massive mistake, but don't be surprised if Shedeur Sanders doesn't start games for the Browns this season. We'll talk about it coming up in the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Dog Pound? I'm Spencer German, your host of the Locked On Browns podcast. I'm proudly covering your Cleveland Browns each and every single day in the land and on the road. Believe it or not, there is a scenario where Shedeur Sanders doesn't play at all for the Browns in 2025. Granted, I'd advise against it. Plus, I've got bold predictions on defense and offense for the Browns this season, and these are definitely some bold ones. I do want to thank you for being an everydayer with the Locked On Browns podcast, making us your first listen every single day. Remember, you can find Cleveland Browns content with Locked On Browns every week, Monday through Friday, guaranteed. And this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Just like there's more to every player, more dedication, more attention and detail, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Stay tuned later in the episode for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. And I want to be clear, and I want to preface this by saying that I think it would be a colossal mistake if the Browns don't play both rookies or start both rookies, I should maybe clarify, in some capacity to get a better read of who they are as players. And I don't know that you're going to get a full evaluation on these guys anyway. Frankly, if each guy gets like a handful of games, 4 or 5 games or something along those lines, it's not going to give you a clear picture of who they are as a player, where their career is headed, how far along they are. Like, you're not going to get that from just that number of games. They need to play more games and have more reps under center and in a starting football game environment to actually get a good sense of where they are as players, obviously. And so I'm not going to sit here and say that I think they should play both of them and that should be the plan, is Flacco to pave the way to Dillon Gabriel, to pave the way to Shedeur Sanders in whatever order clearly that's going to be the order for them because that's the order of their depth chart. But to me, I think it would be a colossal mistake if you don't at least get some read on these guys before you turn the page on 2025 and start looking at quarterbacks in the 2026 draft. But I honestly do think there's a scenario here where Shedeur Sanders doesn't actually end up starting games for the Browns. Notice I said starting because I think, in a one-off situation, maybe there's a game where somebody gets hurt or 2 quarterbacks get hurt or whatever, and Shedeur has to come in. He takes over mid-game or something like that and ends up playing for the Browns. But the way that this is setting up, and based off the conversation we just had yesterday, where I said the leash on Joe Flacco is probably longer than we think, because if he keeps them even afloat, if they're through 8 weeks and he's 3-5, and you're around 500, like, you can make the case to keep him out there if he's playing fine enough and the offense is working fine enough. And it's just that you've played some tough opponents and all these different things, depending on the circumstances and the context to the 3-5 record. Like, yeah, you could absolutely argue that Joe Flacco keeps the job beyond the bye week, but I do think the bye week is kind of a natural jumping off point to get to the rookies. And if that's the case, then you're talking about, okay, week 9, the bye hits, week 10, you start with the rookies. And I could see a world where, because like I said, you're not going to get a good read on both rookies if they each get like a 5-game sample size. If it's week 10, you have 9 games to go and you decide, let's play Dillon for 5 and Shedeur for 4. You're only going to get so much from those games for both these players. Now, if Dillon stinks, then I could see where they would have to obviously pivot to Shedeur Sanders at that point. But here's the thing. We know where this Browns team sort of is at in terms of the evaluations of these guys. We know who was taken ahead of who. They love Dillon Gabriel. They've made that very clear throughout the entirety of the offseason since they drafted him on draft weekend. And so they're going to give him the first chance to go out and play. They're going to try to give him he's probably going to get a longer leash to go out and play. And so even if he struggles early on, once he does get to take over under center, it's one of those things where, like, they will probably try to see it through more with him to get the best read, to get a better read on him over maybe a 9-game sample size instead of just a 5-game sample size before they go to Shedeur Sanders, who they have preached throughout the entirety of this process that they want to be patient with. And they want to be patient with both guys. but clearly they trust enough that they're more ready than what was initially thought, because they decided to move on from Kenny Pickett and know that they're a play away from Dillon Gabriel and having to actually play meaningful snaps for them. So it all depends on, again, when the quarterback change is going to happen at some point. I'm anticipating there's going to be at least one quarterback change this season. It's just a matter of, and given how Browns seasons have gone recently with injuries and different things, yeah, it's fair to sit there and anticipate that maybe they both will end up playing when it's all said and done. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if this season basically just plays out where it's Flacco for maybe half the season, and then they decide to pull the plug and they go to Dillon Gabriel, and then they give Dillon Gabriel the second half of the season to sort of see where he's at, what he brings to the table, how far along he is, what he's picked up on, and decide whether or not he's somebody that's worth investing in terms of using maybe those first round picks next year to build around him, or if he's somebody that they just kind of see as, well, hey, we like him, but we still want to add another quarterback to this room or whatever. That's going to sort of be, there's a world where that's how this thing plays out. Again, I'm not saying that's the way it should. I would rather see both these guys play in a small capacity and at least get some idea of, okay, here's how far along they've come in their rookie seasons. And maybe that would still happen if the season's in the toilet but this is the thing, though. This is the thing that's difficult. It's like, if Dillon Gabriel plays fine enough and they're trying to get a full evaluation of him, let's just say he gets 8 games, something like that, right? 8 or 9 games for the second half of the season. If you're going into the last week of the season, your season's in the toilet, you're at like 5-6 wins, whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, if Dillon's okay and his confidence is fine, you could mess up a guy's psyche by pulling him in the last week of a meaningless game of the season just to be like, oh, well, we want to get a read on the other guy. That just doesn't add up. Like, I don't think they would do that. If Dillon's playing okay and they obviously think that they believe in him enough that they think he can be something in this league for them, to take him in the third round where they did, then I just don't think they would pull the plug just to see Shedeur Sanders if that's the only reasoning they're going to give. Again, I want to see both of them for as many games as possible. It's why I even said way back when, like, if they started the rookies to start the year, I'd be okay with it. I get why they can't do that, because they got us out of this locker room that they're trying to win. But if they decided, you know what, let's just play the rookies this year and see what happens, I think it'd be fine, because you get the best read on both of them if they both got 9 games or 8, if they both kind of got 8 games apiece, or one gets 9 and one gets 8, whatever, you know how it is with the 17-game season. Obviously, that would be better than just getting them each 5 or only getting to see 1 this year. But if they're trying to get a better read or get a sense of who's far, if they're going to dedicate time to a rookie quarterback this season and really evaluate them, they're going to prioritize doing that with Dillon Gabriel, and they're going to prioritize that by giving him more of the games whenever he eventually gets in there than they would give Shedeur Sanders. And so I'm not saying it's for 100% going to play out that way. I'm not saying it should 100% play out that way, because I'd rather both guys play. But there is a world where this season they decide they're going to make a quarterback change. They go to Dillon Gabriel, and he rides off into he takes the reins and finishes out the year, and you don't actually get to see Shedeur Sanders start for this team. And then it would create some questions and some, interesting narratives going into 2026 where they could draft another quarterback. But there is a world where that's how the season goes and how it plays out. And I think I sort of gave you the remnants of that, what that looks like yesterday when I talked about Flacco and the time to make the change maybe being at that bye week after week 9. So just keep that in mind. It's a possibility that it could play out that way. I hope obviously that it doesn't. I'm sure many of you do as well. Let's as we continue to get ready for the season. Week 1 is obviously here. I have some bold predictions for you, starting on the defensive side of the ball, where I think one rookie could be in the running for the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. We'll talk about it coming up on the Locked On Browns podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Mazda. And this is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. These moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go that extra yard, shift into the extra gear, and keep moving the game forward, which is what the Cleveland Browns are hoping to do this season. listen, they won 3 games last year. So the goal for 2025 is obviously to improve upon that. But also, the Browns know they have to develop a handful of young talent on this roster and get back to being a competitive football team and maybe a playoff contender longer term. The goal, that vision, is what is keeping fans and players alike moving forward, always chasing that next great moment. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows in a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts at your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items for the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on a job where every detail matters. Their trade master perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother as well. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, so as the season approaches, it's always fun this time of year to make some bold predictions for what lies ahead for the Cleveland Browns and every team in the NFL in 2025. And listen, I understand this Browns team, expectations are low, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be some fun things to cheer for, follow along with, accolades that can be won by certain players or people. And that's actually where I want to start because, listen, this is going to be, this is probably these are supposed to be bold predictions, so I'm willing to be bold here. But I think Carson Schlesinger is going to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And I'll say here, as I make a bold prediction, that he will win Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie with this. I completely botched this. Not Defensive Player of the Year. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Wow, that was bad. Defensive Player of the Year is a stretch too far. That's like a little too bold for my blood. No, I am going to predict that that Carson Schlesinger wins the NFL's Defensive Rookie of the Year this year. And I know it's far-fetched because the last time a rookie linebacker, I should say, won the Defensive Player of the Year, it was Luke Kuechly back in like 2012 or something crazy like that. So it's been a while. It's not something that happens very often, and rightfully so, because it's hard to do as a linebacker. Your stats are basically just like you accumulate a bunch of you accumulate a bunch of tackles. But the reason I think that it could maybe tip in his favor is his coverage ability. If he's able to get out, make plays in the passing game, snare a couple interceptions, if he shows that ranginess, if he's tipping balls, if he racks up a couple sacks, which we saw in the preseason, Jim Schwartz is not going to be afraid to use Carson Schlesinger in a number of different ways and get him blitzing, get him rushing the passer, all those different things. Then there is definitely a real opportunity where he could maybe bring home this award and win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think it's a possibility. It's hard to do, and that's the biggest thing here. Like, I would understand if somebody wanted to throw like Abdul Carter out there because Abdul Carter obviously is going to be is expected to be a premier pass rusher in this league. It's an easy choice. He was the first defensive player taken in the draft this year. I think like Malachi Starks for the Ravens, given that the Ravens are a really good team, is another one. The other part of this too is like, who's really going to be paying attention? The voters in this are obviously media members. And so how much will people have a pulse on Carson Schlesinger's season in the national media that get to vote on these awards when it's all said and done? It's a fair question, and I don't have the answer for you. But again, we're making bold predictions here. And so I like the idea of Carson Schlesinger having such an undeniably great season that he gets the love from the national media. Maybe PFF helps him out the same way that it helped Myles Garrett win Defensive Player of the Year a couple years ago. And everyone undeniably can't deny his greatness in his first season, and he's able to win it. And the reason, by the way, I go with him over somebody like Mason Graham is I think Mason Graham is going to be massively impactful, especially in terms of helping Myles. And that's going to be the key thing here. Is he's going to be impactful on that defensive line, but I think defensive tackles in general, they always kind of fly under the radar. Unless you are legitimately Aaron Donald and going to just change that position entirely and be such a defensive force that it's undeniable and you're that damn good. Defensive tackles just I don't think get a lot of the love. The edge rushers do, the pass rushers do on the outside. And so understanding that, I think I don't know that he's going to be Aaron Donald. I think he's going to be a good, solid, strong defensive tackle who opens up opportunities for a guy like Myles next to him. He's going to have a good season. I think he's going to be fun to watch and monitor, but I think that Schlesinger is going to stand out more because he's going to be flying around making plays all over the place. Whereas Mason Graham's going to kind of do his job and do it well, but it's not good. It's one of those jobs that gets kind of overlooked at times and is maybe underappreciated to a degree because you're a defensive tackle. And so his impact to be felt, but it won't be felt in a way where it reflects to winning Defensive Rookie of the Year, the same way Carson Schlesinger should. So bold prediction number one on the defensive side of the ball. I'm saying Carson Schlesinger wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. It's hard for linebackers to do it. I'm saying the streak of a linebacker not winning it ends here, though, and he's able to bring home the award and maybe surprise some people in that way. My other bold prediction, speaking of the defensive line, speaking of the pass rush, and speaking of Myles Garrett, is that Myles Garrett finally, after all these years, will take home the sack crown. And there's a number of reasons for this. Part of it is, he got the major payday this offseason. I think he knows there's a higher standard and expectation for him. Jim Schwartz talked about that. He talked about him being even better and winning Defensive Player of the Year again and all those different things. And maybe if you are the sack, if you win the sack title, you're always in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year. So maybe that could even be another cherry on top of what I'm predicting here for him. But I think this is the year that Myles Garrett finally gets it done, winning the sack crown, bringing home that honor at the end of the season. And the reason I feel that way about this year specifically is, as I've talked about, this defensive line, I think, is the best one assembled under Kevin Stefanski, during Kevin Stefanski's tenure. I understand they don't have the elite pass rusher on the other side, but I think with Isaiah McGuire and Alex Wright, you have a solid rotation there opposite of him that is going to be able to cause some problems in their own right. But it's the interior guys for me. It's Malik Collins, who's one of the better interior pass rushers in this league. It's Mason Graham, who, like I said, is going to be a steady presence and take some pressure off of Myles Garrett and be able to open him up to do some things. I think that's all going to allow Myles to make more plays this year than maybe ever before because he's got somebody right next to him that is going to occupy people's attention and opposing offensive line's attention. And so with that in mind, I am predicting here that Myles wreaks havoc this year, he always racks up a bunch of sacks, but even more so than usual, and gets himself that sack title at the end of the season and delivers another great one for the Browns, and is part of the reason why this team is maybe competitive throughout the season just in general, because they're going to go as that defensive line goes, they're going to go as that defense goes, and it obviously starts with Myles Garrett. So those are my two bold predictions on the defensive side of the ball. What about the offensive side of the ball? I got a couple things for you there as well. We'll get to them coming up here in the Locked On Browns podcast. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner. You can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. And if you haven't joined a league yet, now is the time. It's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. I'm playing Yahoo Fantasy. My most competitive league, my most fun league is in Yahoo Fantasy. You can too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. With the season set to kick off tomorrow, September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. You want more ways to play? Try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's just one team left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Or prefer the classics? Well, you can always just join a private league with head-to-head matchups each week. Or if you don't have a crew, Join a public league. It's the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off tomorrow, September 4th, so do not wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. The NFL season is nearly here, and FanDuel wants to make sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Here's why I can't get enough of FanDuel. First off, they have options of any style of betting, whether you just want to ride with the money lines or play the spread for your favorite team. That may be a good move for Browns fans because they might not be favored in a lot of games this year, but if you think that they're going to at least cover the spread, you can cope with the loss by winning some money because you picked them to win against the spread. Or you can piece together player props and have stakes in multiple games that you might watch throughout the day. That's the other thing. When you're betting with FanDuel, every game feels more exciting and meaningful, even if it's not your team playing in it. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. All right, we gave you 2 bold predictions on defense. What about on the offensive side of the ball? And I'm not going quite as bold here in terms of award winners and all these different things. We know the offense is going to be the big question mark of this team throughout the season. How long does Joe Flacco play? What rookies make impacts? Jerry Jeudy being the only notable receiver on this squad. All those different things come into play here. But the 2 that I got for you, and one of them actually does center around Jerry Jeudy. We'll start there. Jerry Jeudy is not only going to replicate his 2024 campaign where he just obviously put up great numbers, 1,200 yards, only 4 touchdowns. I think he has more touchdowns this year. Him and Joe Flacco are going to be on the same page to start the season, and Flacco makes everybody around him generally pretty much better. And so I'm predicting that not only will Jerry Jeudy replicate his 2024 season, but he'll also surpass it. I'm talking like 1,300 yards, maybe 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, maybe in that range, somewhere around there. A respectable season that garners him more respect across the NFL as people start to realize, like, okay, this guy can be a number 1 wide receiver now. I have the utmost faith in Jerry Jeudy. I've been on this train and this bandwagon throughout the offseason. We talked about it when we rolled out here at Locked On, our top 100 list, and I was upset that Jerry Jeudy didn't make the cut. People pushed back on it. I get it. They want to see more. Well, guess what? You're going to get more from Jerry Jeudy this season. And I do think it starts with the fact that, like I said, Flacco is going to be the guy under center to start the year. With Flacco under center, I'm already picturing the magic elixir that we saw, the magic connection, maybe I should say, that he had with Amari Cooper. Only now it's with Jerry Jeudy. They're going to the chemistry's there. We've seen it throughout training camp in the preseason. He knows where he's going to be. It's pinpoint passes. Jerry sometimes dropped some of those in training camp, but I think that will not be the case in actual games. He's going to make sure he sets him up for success. Every quarterback needs a go-to target. And in this offense, with the lack of weapons that this team has, I think it's pretty easy to rely on Jerry Jeudy and know that he's going to look his way quite a bit. And because he's the only really, quote-unquote, trusted weapon in this offense at this point, the only established weapon in the offense at this point, I think it's even more reason why Flacco is going to be looking his way a ton this year. And so with that in mind, I'm saying Jerry Jeudy has a great encore season here, establishes himself as a true number 1 wide receiver in this league and for the Cleveland Browns, and people continue to buy the Jerry Jeudy stock from here because I think it's going to be a good year. We'll see what it looks like once one of the rookies gets in there. I still say, though, like, even the rookies, whichever one is out there at any given time, are going to be looking Jerry Jeudy's way because he's a reliable target. He's a reliable weapon. And frankly, everybody wants to have like that comfort zone, that guy they can always rely on. And that's certainly Jerry on this team. And so he's going to get the targets. He's going to get the looks. And I think it racks up to him having a great follow-up act here to what he did last year and proves to everybody that he is a number 1 wide receiver in the sport. My other bold offensive prediction, similar to the Jerry Jeudy one, is that I think Fannon Jr. is going to finish the year as the team's number 2 No, he's going to finish the team on the team second in terms of receiving statistics. Like, I think he'll be the team's top number 2 receiver, essentially, in terms of the numbers, in terms of yards, in terms of targets, in terms of catches, and maybe in terms of touchdowns, but those can be sort of fluky because I actually think David Njoku could have more touchdowns than Harold Fannon, because I think that's where Njoku is going to make his living this year, is very much near the goal line and some of those, red zone areas, which is where him and Joe Flacco made some sweet music together back in 2023. So I don't know that he'll have more touchdowns than maybe some others in terms of the number 2 receiver category, but I do think he'll be number 2 on the team in receiving, because I think he's going to be such an important piece in this offense because of a lack of having a slot receiver that is proven. And that's no disrespect to Jamari Thrash. He's just young. He's in year 2. I've been very impressed with Jamari Thrash, and he's going to be that slot receiver more often than not when they're in 3 wide receiver sets. But they're going to run a ton of 12 personnel. We know that about Stefanski's offense. We know he likes to do that. There's going to be a ton of opportunities for Harold Fannon Jr. to feast in this offense. Joe Flacco, again, being the guy that makes guys around him better, makes his weapons better. He's going to look his way a ton. We saw that in the final preseason game where he threw him the touchdown pass. Like, I just think he is poised for a pretty big year in terms of targets. He's going to be on the field a ton, running from that slot spot as a tight end, but obviously as a pseudo slot receiver, because they don't have a reliable guy there at this juncture, and their receiver room is just so thin. And so I'm predicting that behind Jerry, who's going to have that great year, it's going to be Harold Fannon as the number 2 in terms of stats on this team for receiving stats with the Cleveland Browns. Those are my 2 bold predictions on the offensive side of the ball. Share some of your bold predictions with me at SpenC2_ on X, or jump on in those YouTube comments and let me know your thoughts on mine. And if you have anything else that I missed, or if you want to share any of your own, for sure. As always, though, thank you for joining me to talk about your favorite football team. If you like what you heard, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make Locked On Browns to make sure Locked On Browns is your first listen every day, wherever you get your podcasts, and of course at the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And for your second listen, check out Locked On NFL season previews on Locked On NFL. Every division winner, breakout stars, and Super Bowl contenders. An 8-episode series with everything you need to know about the NFL season. You can find it on Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Or, as always, you can keep it local. Check out Locked On Cavs or Locked On Guardians. Thank you for being an everydayer at the Locked On Podcast Network. Talk to you again tomorrow, Cleveland, for our crossover, first of the season with James Rapien. See you then.